Williamsville Sports Weekly is brought to you by your local country financial representative, Ed Legner. Please contact Ed for all your insurance and financial planning needs. His office is located at 318 Crossing Drive in Sherman, and he can be reached at 217-496-2341. But for now, enjoy the show. Welcome to Williamsville Sports Weekly, an in-depth look at both BB and Bullet athletics, hosted by our athletic director Adam Euchre and former Lady Bullets basketball coach John Hampton.
Welcome to episode 84 of Williamsville Sports Weekly, presented by Ed Legner, country insurance financial representative out of Sherman, Illinois. You can visit Ed for all your insurance and financial needs. John, it's me being a White Sox fan, you being a Cardinals fan. It's kind of a difficult spot that we're in right now to see all this Cubby blue and Cubby love going on a little bit. And I guess the only reason I would like to see the Cubs win, my mom's mom, who passed away back when I was in fifth grade, my dad's dad, who passed away a few years ago, my grandma, my dad's mom, who just passed away last week, were all huge Cubs fans. And even in 2003, when they were so close in NLCS, I said the only reason I want to see them win is for them and for that older generation who has just been with it for so long. You're in a little bit different of a spot. Obviously, as a Sox, I've only seen win one World Series. You've seen the Cardinals win quite a few, but I'm sure it's a little hard for you watching this right now.
It is, and every part of me wants to root for him, but then I start watching the game, and I just feel myself pulling against them, and I don't know why, because I've got so many friends that are Cub fans, but I tell you, it's kind of neat, as you're saying, like with the older generation. Like if you just drive through Williamsville, just a little town of Williamsville, you see these W flags up, and an older neighbor of mine put up a solid blue, big W piece of wood, painted blue, hanging up on his garage. I mean, it's really cool, and personally, I hope they don't win, but boy, I'd like to see those older fans see that, and they're the people that were around before every game being on TV. They listen to the games every day,
or when it was on WGN. I remember that with my grandma, and even my grandma that just passed, and my mom's mom, watching on WGN. And the thing that I always remember, the shot in Ferris Bueller's Day Off when they have that camera, that first base camera angle. I always thought that was like the WGN camera angle.
Yep.
And that's kind of like what I remember. Even though I guess I was a Cubs fan when I was little, and until I got smart. But it would just it kind of brings back those memories a little bit.
Yeah, and I remember we got cable TV in 1983, and in '84 the Cubs made this big run and they won the division. That's when Leon Durham had the ball go through his legs, and Harry Carey had the Jody Davis. He would sing Jody Davis song, and Ron Say and those guys. Big Cardinal fan, but my dad was a teacher, so he was home all summer. And first summer we had cable, and we'd sit there and watch those Cub games. And Dad loved Harry Carey because he used to be a Cardinal announcer. And I could tell you all those players on that team, and I was a big, huge Cardinal fan. But yeah, you're right. The WGN, I think that made everybody, aware of the Cubs, and that's why when the Cubs go on the road during the regular season, you'll see a lot of Cub fans, even in Pittsburgh or wherever, because those were the giant cable stations you could pick up at that time.
Just like how TBS did the same thing for the Braves.
Absolutely.
But I just want to put that out there. Like Cubs fans say, the W stands for Wrigley. It doesn't stand for win. That's what they always say, but it's what always amazes me is that W's never up on a loss.
Oh, they only fly it with a W.
They only fly it when there's a win.
Yeah.
So I'm still waiting for the L flag out there, which you can purchase outside Comiskey, which I haven't purchased one yet, but I would love to get one. Switching gears on the Williamsville side, soccer had a great run. Lost 2-1 in the sectional finals last weekend to Bloomington Cornerstone Christian Academy, which is at the state tournament right now, starting tomorrow. So shows how good that program has been, and Coach Davidson continuing that tradition with them capturing their fifth straight regional title. And Joe Rossetti just got named second team Chicago Fire academic team member. Nice. Another great accomplishment for them. But then we still got three teams in the postseason right now. We'll be talking with head coach of the cross-country team, Tyler Casson, and then junior Grace Gudwien in the next two segments. But volleyball tonight, I want to touch on this a little bit before we move into football, and then talk a little bit about the interview coming up with Coach Casson. But volleyball, 17-13 right now. Had a loss to Athens, few weeks ago. Leah Musselman goes down in the second set to a season-ending knee injury, and they end up losing in 3 sets. But then to come back then and dominate Athens the other night in that regional semifinal game, going for the 6th straight regional tonight against Pleasant Plains. First time we've played Plains in a regional since 2009. I think they're peaking at the right time, and it's not been a year that probably Coach Carlson or any of the girls have wanted, but the schedule we've played and the lessons they have learned, this is where they would pay off tonight.
Yeah, it's we talk a lot about having a program means that even in a year where you struggle, you still have a chance, in the postseason. And this is a great example of a really good coaching staff and good kids and willing to be coached, and they'll go out there and give it their best tonight. And it does matter when you've won 5 in a row. The girls they play against tonight may not know it's 5, but they know this team usually wins, and it's going to be tough to beat these guys. And that's where, like, if it ends up being close tonight, things tend to go in the way of that team that's won a bunch, because it's just a little tougher to beat somebody who has been there before and done it many times.
Well, and this Plains team is young. Yes, they've beat us twice this season, but they're young. We still have a whole bunch of experience from that super sectional team last year. So at Porta tonight, and by the time we get this up, the game may have been over, but hopefully we get a lot of people there. Football, great draw coming up Saturday, hosting the Hilltoppers from Hillsborough High School, 1 o'clock, Paul Jenkins Field. Game will be live on WHS Bullets TV with you and Mike Brennan in charge of that production. But I know with talking with Coach Coons, very happy with this draw. And obviously we don't want to look too far ahead, but there's a possibility, okay, we could see a Sangamo team in the quarters in Auburn and then a rematch with North Mac in the semis heading into Champaign.
That'd be neat, and it's interesting because I was looking at that, and you always want to sit here and say, what if we did this one? But really, if we could win 2 conferences, we can get there. We'd have to win the South Central, which would be Hillsborough and Carlinville.
Yep.
And then we'd have to win the Sangamo, and that's, of course, if North Mac and Auburn can make it there.
Yeah.
But it's interesting too that I believe Coach Howard, who was here for years, is playing North Mac tonight.
Yeah, Beardstown's playing North Mac on Saturday, so there's that connection. And
so you can see when you start getting a coaching tree out there, which Coach Kuhn's starting to do, when you get in these playoffs, you start seeing some advantage to having some of those people out there, and where we could help them and they can help us. And and you can see it on the other side too, to where if we happen to beat Hillsborough, they're in the same conference with Carlinville. So you start seeing some of that local relationships go on. But, yeah, I believe Hillsborough, was that the team that we played 2 years ago?
2 years ago here on a Friday night. Yep. I think it was Halloween night that night, coming out of the South Central. Yep. But 5 teams from the conference made it. And, looking at Auburn with 5-4, lowest record coming in, going to, top seed Newton, they're not your typical 16 seed. And, they lost real close game to Athens, real close game to Maroa, real close. Well, not Maroa. Maroa was the outlier. They're 15-14 to North Mac, and then lost to us in the 4th quarter. So, I don't think this isn't a team on Auburn's side that is just happy to be there.
No, and it'll also show us, say Newton happens to win, it'll kind of give us and everybody else kind of what do you say? Kind of a barometer as to how really good Newton is. Being at 9-0. So if they happen to beat Auburn. And who knows? Games are different, but if it's a close game with Auburn, then we know, we can play with anybody in this quadrant. I guess it's still called a quadrant.
Quad, yeah, and then even though they won through 16, I mean, to get out of the quarters, you got to win your quad. So, switching gears on the cross country side, sectional meet in Elmwood this weekend. Talking to Coach Casson in the next segment. The thing that I touch on in this interview, and you'll hear it too, and I not only talk cross country, but then I also talk about his T-shirt business that he has done and kind of how it's really expanded here. And what I really got out of this, and hopefully a lot of people do as they listen to this here, regardless of what your dreams are, what your aspirations, and Brandy Donnelly hit on this and one of the episodes earlier this year, you can do whatever you want. If you have that dream, you have that vision, it's just putting your nose to the grindstone, grinding it out every day, and just not taking no for an answer. And Coach Casson had gone through some issues with health a few years ago, overcame those, and obviously the cross country program is blossoming, and that the P.A.C.E Clothing line has been blossoming as well, and he's gotten in with some country music stars, which is really cool.
Yeah, He's a hard worker. I mean, he even had a photography business. I don't know if he still does that on the weekends. And local, he's an alum and has really built the cross-country program up, obviously, and actually did a really good job with our basketball program for years until this year. And I know he'll probably still help with the Christmas tournament.
He's the tournament manager,
Yep.
so
Yep.
that's a huge undertaking.
And he was a good ball player when I first came to the area and coached at Riverton. He was playing here at Williamsville, and he was one of the better shooting guards in the area too. So he's a really good athlete coming up.
Really excited about that interview, but before we get to that, remember you can follow us on Twitter, WCSD15 Sports, for all your news and score updates on both BB and Bullet Athletics throughout the 16-17 school year. Facebook as well, facebook.com/WHS Bullets for both WHS news and Bullet Athletic news as well. Follow the podcast, Williamsville Sports Weekly. You can get to it on iTunes just by searching for that on the main page of the athletic website, WCSD15.org. Just click on the Athletics tab up at the top. We also put it up on Facebook and then YouTube as well. We started to put it up on YouTube as another way for you to get to it. A lot of great opportunities for you to listen to this material and follow what's going on in the world of both BB and Bullet Athletics. But when we return, we'll be joined by head cross-country coach for both the BBs and the Bullets, Tyler Casson.
Next time you're in the market for insurance or financial planning, stop by and see Country Financial Representative Ed Legner at 318 Crossing Drive in Sherman, or give him a call at 217-496-2341. And now, back to the show.
Welcome back to Williamsville Sports Weekly, presented by Ed Legner, Country Insurance Financial Representative out of Sherman. You can visit Ed for all your insurance and financial needs. Sitting with us right now, fifth-year head coach for the Bullets cross-country team, Tyler Casson. And I'm sure a lot of people that are a part of the cross-country team know this, but you oversee both the high school and the junior high at the same time. And up until 2 years ago, you were doing that by yourself. Kind of talk to us a little bit about the challenges of running two programs at the same time and how you were able to keep your sanity for those first 3 years, since 2 years ago we were able to get you an assistant, which I know has relieved a lot of stress on your end.
Yeah, with cross country it's really difficult because you have a number of kids doing different workouts each week and each day. So in the beginning, when I had about 60 kids to myself, it was a struggle trying to make sure that I'm, following through with everybody's workouts and making sure everybody's doing them correctly. So having an assistant, I'm able to delegate some of the other jobs or, overlook the other runners with them. It's been a really, blessing to have my assistants that I have. I think I'm pretty lucky now that I'm not, overworked in the sense by myself.
Well, and your assistant's Kyle Muskoff, who's our band director for both the junior high and high school, and then Brian Glass, who came over from Rochester, who's a pretty well-known runner within the Springfield community, and he came on board about mid-season last year. Talk to us about the impact that he's had on the program, especially being able to help you develop those workouts that you talked about.
Brian Glass is probably one of the biggest, I would say, blessings that we have. He came in, as everybody knows, he's a really big local runner. He's one of the probably top masters runners in the United States as far as his age group goes. He knows his stuff. Our kids have really kind of attached to him. They love his personality and what he brings to the table. And I think a lot of the success for this year has been, with how he has helped grow our program.
Now you said master runner or masters runners. What's that? What does that, title mean?
Basically, when you run a lot of races and do as well as he has, you get a title of, being one of the better runners. And when you hit, I believe 40 years old, you get into that category of masters, which it's well deserved. He runs every day, and he's logged thousands and thousands of miles, and he comes and does every workout with our kids. He is very helpful.
Now, you talk about the workouts, and when you first started, you said you had 60, and your numbers have grown dramatically over the last few years. Going into 2016, what were your numbers at between the high school and the junior high?
Overall, this year we had 72 kids. I remember when I first started, I think there was only 14 total amongst the 4 programs, or something like that. So the numbers have grown a lot, and I think it's a big part is the success that we've had at the junior high level, and then those kids continue to run at the high school level. And I think a lot of it goes to the kids are enjoying the sport and enjoying our coaching staff, which makes them want to run even more.
So 72 kids, and obviously cross country, very similar to track. There's the individual component, and then there's the team component too. It's not like basketball or football or soccer where you have to get the full team ready. And obviously there's strategy with the race and everything like that. But how do you go about developing 72 individual workouts for those kids so they can be the best prepared when it becomes race day, either on a Saturday during a week or if we have a midweek race on a Tuesday?
Basically, how we do the workouts is we usually do each week about the same as far as the schedule goes. We'll have, a long day on Monday. We'll do workouts Tuesday and Thursdays. That way we have a little bit of rest for a Saturday meet. So we work them really hard in the beginning of the year and mainly through the middle of the year, knowing that they might not be running their best races typically on every Saturday. But by the end of the year, they'll be peaking and running at top performance. With the individual aspect, we have to look at kids in practice and see, what they can handle. And we look at their times and we adjust the workouts based on their individual performances from the week before. So then is like the day before, is that like a rest day before a race, or how does that work? Yeah, the day before a race, usually on Fridays, we run morning practices bright and early around 6:15 in the morning. That way they have a longer rest up until the meet on Saturday. And they usually go about race distance, which is either 2 to 3 miles. For them, they're really excited about 2 to 3 miles because they're running each day. They're averaging 6 miles to 8 miles.
I hear 2 to 3 miles, and I just cringe at that. And obviously for these kids, that's a light workout, which is absolutely amazing. Now, one of the nice things with heading up the junior high and the high school program together is you can really mold and develop those athletes and really, almost stair-step them, from 6th grade until the time, they become a senior. And with your 5th year, you're starting to see kids that have gone all the way through the program, and you're really starting to see that success. How proud are you to be able to have seen that and see these kids grow from the time they were in junior high up to high school with this group that you have right now?
Yeah, I'm extremely proud of these kids that have stuck with it. And it's really great to see the program take a big turn. When I first got here, like I said, we didn't even have full teams. We hardly had anybody running. So my overall goal was to get as many kids as possible to run and enjoy the sport. So now that they've come up into high school, they know what cross country is all about. We got kids that are, motivated, they're dedicated, they work their butt off every day, and we're starting to see a lot of success, and the kids are starting to have a lot more fun.
One of the things your junior high girls team this year won sectionals, went on to state, got 14th. And what we were talking about is when they're running at a level that they're at junior high, they're competing against much bigger metropolitan areas like a Dunlap, who has 3 to 4 junior highs, a Washington, 3 to 4 junior highs. And the junior highs are the same size as ours, but they feed into a big high school that's between 12 and 1,500 kids. How does that help
by the time they get to high school that they've had that high level of competition. And then I guess it's almost similar to what we're seeing with Athens and football, where they've played a 2 to 3A schedule, and now they're dropping down to 1A for this football playoff run in 2016.
Yeah, we can see a huge difference by the time they get to high school. Like you were saying, the schools are bigger areas, and really they still are about 200 kids bigger than our school. So they still have a larger population of kids to choose from. The competition at the junior high level is really tough. These schools are just one of the biggest and top schools in 2A. We're racing in junior high. So when we get to high school and we move to 1A, we're facing schools that are a little bit, more our size, and we have a lot better chance of doing extremely well, especially at the state level.
Well, talking about that and looking at the girls' side, they got second in regionals this last week. And looking at your team, it's a very young team. And, you have 4 freshmen in your top group of runners. Did you expect that coming in because of the level of competition that they had seen at the junior high level?
Yeah, this incoming freshman class, they made it to state back-to-back years at junior high level, and they performed really well. They placed 6th in the state, and I knew the quality of kids that I was having coming up, and I knew how hard they worked and how dedicated they were. So looking into the season, we knew we were going to be pretty good. And then once the year started unfolding, they really stepped up and have been running really well. They are extremely young. We have another sophomore who is a phenomenal runner, and then 2 juniors have been leading our team to the level of performance that we've been having.
Now, looking at your top 4, Audrey Cakeley, Carolina Gwaltney, Grace Gudwien, Lexi Hendrickson, I'm sure as a coach, it's much easier for you to be able to kind of strategize in a race when those 4 are pretty much interchangeable, depending upon, I guess, the course and the teams that we're facing.
Yeah, that's a big deal. Most teams do not have a solid 4 punch like we do. I mean, some teams don't even have a solid 2. They all usually have like one really, really strong runner, and then their 2 runners really far back. Well, so we're pretty lucky that we have a pack of 4 that can really push up towards the front and just, really make our point numbers go down, which helps when we score the race.
Now, when they're pushing towards the pack, are they knowing when to draft and when to pass and do all that stuff? Or is that something you talk to them pre-race, or is that something they communicate with each other when they're out there, in the moment?
Yeah, we talk about it pre-race. That's one positive about having Brian Glass there is he's had so many races. He has so much experience that he is able to help them with race strategy. He usually gets to the course and he'll run the entire course first so that he knows how the course is to where he can then give his kind of strategy on what will help them throughout the race. So the kids know, when they should be surging, when they should, take it a little easier, and then when they should really put the hammer down for the rest of the race.
So both teams advanced to sectionals up at Elmwood this weekend. As we said, the girls were so close to get that regional title, and we'll talk about that in a second. The boys ended up getting 4th. Both of them have a pretty good shot to do very well this weekend up at Elmwood, and hopefully we get a big crowd up there. But with the girls, that one of their big rivals, Liberty, was the one that got us right at the end of the race. Kind of talk to us about that and what you've been talking to the girls about how they can use that as motivation as they prepare for this big sectional race this weekend.
Yeah, Liberty is currently ranked 2nd in the state. They are a really, really good team. Last year they finished 4th in the state, just barely missing a trophy. Our girls have been competing with them all year. We beat them a couple times, and we know that we can compete with them. So in a race, it just basically our girls need to have in mind that they are fast enough and have similar, they're similar to the Liberty squad. So in a race, they're just, kind of looking for red and hoping that we can run our best and beat them on any given day.
Now, one thing that you talked about was how bigger meets sometimes can be an advantage when you have a pack of runners like this because of how the times are spaced out and stuff and how it helps with your points. So kind of explain why that's the case, because to me, I would think a smaller race would be better just because you're competing against less schools, but on the cross-country side, that's not necessarily the case.
Yes. It's better to have a larger race for a team that has a pack. So in a short way to describe this, a lot of teams have a really, really strong number one runner, and our team doesn't really have like a really, really strong number one. We're more of like a really fast 4 that's just barely behind the 1. So it helps us because most teams, 3 and 4 runner, are not as good as our 3 and 4 runner. So the amount of other individuals from other teams that we can place in between their 3 and our 3 and their 4 will help our score. So in a bigger race, rather than only having 2 runners in between our 3 and their 3, we might have 15 runners in between the 2. So it's kind of a hard thing to explain, but if you could see it at the race, it's a lot easier to see it.
Another plug for people to come up to Elmwood this weekend so they can see exactly what you're talking about and they can cheer us on, which would be, the last time the program won a regional title was 2006. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we've ever won a sectional title in cross country.
Yeah, we have never won a sectional title in cross country, and we've never gone to state as a team for girls. So it'll be a really big accomplishment for our girls to be the first team to go as a team, as well as it's a big accomplishment just to do it in general. So.
And the boys team was the one that won that one in 2006.
Yes.
So hopefully we get a lot of people up there this weekend and then come right back down and watch that football game and still get home in plenty of time to watch the Cubs game on Saturday night. Kind of want to switch gears a little bit. You're a very busy guy, both here at school in terms of your responsibilities as a teacher and coach, but you run a side business as well. Good Vibe Tribe, which has a lot of clothing and stuff. And kind of tell us, the story behind that and how within the last, 9 to 12 months, this thing has exploded and you've been able to, rub some elbows with some pretty big country music stars. And I know you're going down to Champaign here in the next few days to go see Dierks Bentley and Drake White and Randy Houser. And it's because of a connection that you have with Drake White with the Good Vibe Tribe stuff that you've been doing. So kind of share a little bit of that story.
Yeah, about a year and a half ago, I started a company called P.A.C.E Clothing. Stands for People Advocating Change to Everyone. And I basically created the company to help give back to others in need. So I started a little clothing line. The main collection is the Good Vibe Tribe, and we're spreading good vibes to those in need. So what we do is we sell T-shirts and we donate 20% of our profit to individuals and other charities that need some help. And through that, I have kind of made connections with some country music artists in Nashville who really love the concept of our company and want to be part of the Good Vibe Tribe. So I've been able to, meet Drake White, who's an up-and-coming country star, Michael Ray, who's an up-and-coming country star. I get to hang out with Dierks Bentley tomorrow night, which will be fun. And, hopefully I can continue to get more people involved so that we can help these individuals that need help. Now,
you talk about giving back. Kind of what's the qualifications for that? And I know you've given back to some local people here within the community with some struggles that they've gone through. Kind of talk to us about that a little bit.
Yeah, basically how we do it is each month, we have people emailing and contacting us about people who have a certain illness or have had some, hard times that could use some, help with medical bills to anything that's, struggle that they're having. So what we do is we have like a little panel and we vote on who we think should be this charity of the month. And then we take all the sales that we've accumulated over the month and we donate 20% to them.
Now, you obviously went through some challenges a few years ago. Is that kind of where this whole concept came from when you were going through the medical struggles you were going with?
Yeah, a couple years ago, I got diagnosed with cancer, and I was having a hard time, and they had a small little benefit in Sherman, and so many people helped out and came and supported me. So when I first started this, I wanted to give back to others, and I kept thinking, how can I help others? All these people rallied together and helped me out. How can I do the same? So that kind of how it originated, how it all came about. I was just driving to Nashville to go see my girlfriend, and I had some weird idea about this clothing brand and the Good Vibe Tribe, and I just rolled with it. So,
and that's a lot of things. I think a lot of us have great ideas in our head, but it's taking that first step. It's overcoming that I guess that fear of failure, because I look at you and it's you wouldn't be the typical person I would think of when I'm thinking of like a clothing designer, and you're not like sewing the stuff that you see like on like if anyone watches Project Runway out there, but you're more visual in terms of the concept, and then you're kind of sending that out to a company to then produce that for you. You're not like sitting at home and hand sewing all this stuff or screen printing all this stuff yourself.
No. Basically, we have wholesalers that we work with and printers that we work with. I create all the designs. I get the ideas that I think would go over great, and then I send them off, and we have tons of people that work for us and get the product out there. I do, on the other hand, make the homemade jewelry and stuff for the line, which does take a lot of my time. But in the end, I just look back on how many people that we are helping, and how much better it makes me feel to make sure that everybody is their lives are made easier.
You talk about your girlfriend. A lot of people know Kelsey Hickman. Came back, did a big homecoming show at Boondocks when she released her first CD. How's she doing now? I know you and I have talked about her next recording and kind of what the next step of the process is, but I know she's been a big part of this endeavor with you as well.
Yeah, she's been doing really well. Her first album came out. She's working on another one, and then she'll be going on radio tour and stuff over the summer and doing a bunch of shows over her little summer tour that she's going to have. She's working on she's got several people who are investing in her because they believe that she's got a talent that is worth investing in. So she's just going to continue to create albums and hope that it basically starts playing on the radio and things start going well for her.
And I think a lot of people think that, okay, she did the show at Boondock, she has a CD, it's, she's super famous now, but it's hard work, and and there's no guarantee with that. And the music business has obviously changed quite a bit, where they're not making money off their albums.
Yeah.
It's, she's out there, she's constantly touring, she's singing while she's in Nashville, and she's put a lot of time and effort in with that.
Yeah, the music business now is totally different. You basically only make money at your shows because of iTunes and all the others, YouTubes and all that. People are not buying songs as much or albums as much. They might just buy a song on iTunes, and they're only getting a small percentage of, that purchase. So the way they make money is to travel and tour and continue to sing. So she spends a lot of time. I mean, she sings 5 days a week just to make money to pay her bills. So
going back to cross country as we wrap up here, we're going to be talking to one of your runners in the next segment, Grace Gudwien, and the one thing you had said about her before we started recording this was how proud you are of her in terms of how much she's grown, especially into a leader this year. She's one of our members of our Captain's Council that you nominated her for. But how have you seen her grow? What's some personal stories you have for her as we bring her on in the next segment?
Yeah, Grace Gudwien is probably one of the most remarkable kids that you could possibly have. She is a hard worker. She's smart. She's kind. She does everything that we would want, an athlete to do. Last year, I'll just put it in perspective, as last year she was, a 20-minute 3-mile runner, and going into the summer, she knew that she would have to work extremely hard in order for her to, break that 20-minute barrier. And she did. She ran every day this summer. She put in the miles, and she has been a huge part of our success this year. She not only broke 20 minutes, she's broken 19 minutes, and she continues to make strides to possibly be an all-state runner by the time she graduates, which is extremely a huge accomplishment.
Well, we're really excited to talk to her in the next segment. We're excited to see what you guys do on Saturday. Hopefully we get a lot of people up at Elmwood. 10:30 start for the girls' race. The boys' race will follow. Like we said, still be able to get down for the kickoff of the Bullets versus Hillsboro, and still be able to watch that Cubs game on Saturday night. In terms of P.A.C.E Clothing, if someone wants to go and purchase any of the stuff you have out there or suggest a charity, how do they get a hold of you? How do they go and find this stuff so they can support the good causes that you guys have been supporting over the last year?
Yeah, if you have someone in mind that could use some help, you can get on our P.A.C.E Clothing Facebook. We have P.A.C.E Clothing Instagram and Twitter. You can contact on those. You can also email me or send me a message on Facebook. If you're looking to purchase any of the clothing and help someone out, you can go to www.pace-clothing.com, and then you can get whatever you want on there, and the items will be shipped to you, and you will be helping someone who could use some help.
Coach, thank you so much. We wish you the best of luck this weekend, and when we return, we'll be joined by junior cross-country runner Grace Gudwien.
If you can't make it out to the game, you don't have to worry about missing a moment of the action by following all BB and Bullet athletic happenings on Twitter at WCUSD15Sports. And now back to the show.
Welcome back to Williamsville Sports Weekly, presented by Ed Legner, Country Insurance Financial Representative out of Sherman, Illinois. You can visit Ed for all your insurance and financial needs. Sitting with us right now, junior for the Lady Bullets cross country team, Grace Gudwien, but more importantly, a fellow White Sox fan. And as right now, we kind of have to stick together with the Cubs being in the World Series. And I don't know about you, but I always feel that when the Cubs get really good, it seems like the fans start coming out of the woodwork a little bit more.
Yeah, a little bit. I'm ready to watch the Cubs go down. Let's go Indians.
Which I would like to see the Indians win as well. It's hard for me, and obviously I'm a little bit older than you, but growing up in the throughout the 90s and then into the 2000s, the Indians always have been a huge division rival. So it's kind of like, I guess, pick your poison here at this point. Mm-hmm. But I was talking with one of the guys I used to work with up in Morton. He's a Cardinals fan, and I think Cardinals fans and White Sox fans are in the same boat right now. And you could hear a pin drop on Facebook after that first loss yesterday. And there's not a lot of, I would say, I don't know, it seems to me like a lot of Cubs fans don't know as much about baseball as I would say like Cardinals fans or even White Sox fans do. But I guess for my grandma and my grandparents who are no longer with us, I would like to see them win for that sake, but maybe for no one else. So, because you know as well as I do and talk with your dad, sometimes we would rather see the Cubs lose than the White Sox win, and that's just kind of the White Sox fan mentality a little bit. But transitioning a little bit back over to the running side, obviously a great opportunity for you guys coming up this weekend as you go up to Elmwood for the IHSA sectional. But I wanted to kind of go back a few years and talk about how you got involved in running with cross country and kind of talk about your story, because it always amazes me when I look at you guys and your just enjoyment for running, because I absolutely hate it. I do it because I have to for the Army, but if I didn't have to do it, I probably wouldn't. So kind of tell me your story a little bit and how you got involved in this and how you've gotten up to an elite level that you're at right now.
Well, I started by doing just track in 6th grade. And I did that all 3 years of junior high. And by 8th grade, I was pretty decent, and I ran the 8 and 1600 at that time. And then my freshman year, I decided to try cross country too, and I found out that I really liked it. I liked running the 3 miles out in actual nature instead of in circles on the track, which I do still participate in track, but I like cross country a little bit more.
Now, do you wish, with having just done track in junior high, do you wish you would have started cross country a little bit sooner?
Definitely. I would have liked to have run cross country in junior high. I did basketball, though, so I did have another sport at the same time, was the main reason I didn't.
So what was kind of the desire for you to all of a sudden jump into cross country your freshman year? Because obviously, you're going from, in junior high, you're only running 2 miles. High school, you're running, 3, basically a 5K length. What was your thought process, your motivation with that, besides obviously running around in circles on the track, which it's not as scenic?
Mainly, I would have liked to run cross country. I knew I liked to run longer distances. Because of basketball, it was going to be too much if I did cross country and basketball. So once basketball was not at the same time, or which I don't do anymore now, I can run cross country.
So that first time you're out there for practice and then for a meet, was it difficult for you? Was it a shock, or was it that not that big of a deal because you had maybe been used to running those distances as you're practicing for the track stuff that you did in the distance races?
I was fine. Mainly, like in practice, it's very individual based, like just how well you can run, how hard, how far you can go. The first meet, I was nervous for it. The biggest thing is pacing to make sure I don't go out too fast or too slow. But after a while, you get the hang of it, and it's easier.
Now, is there like a favorite course you have? Because I know I've seen some courses where like you have to run through water, like just because, it's like on a creek bed. Is there one that kind of sticks out in your mind that you're like, man, this is a really fun course to run, or maybe it's difficult, which adds to that extra challenge of the race?
My favorite course, really, because it's fun to PR, it's fun to run your fastest times, is probably Detweiler Park, which is the state course in Peoria, which it's flat and fast, exactly 3 miles. There's always a good vibe when you're there. Like everybody who's there wants to be there and wants to run cross country and loves the sport.
And obviously that's kind of your guys' ultimate goal going into sectionals this weekend, trying to be the first team within the cross country program to make it to a state meet. But you're already familiar with Detweiler Park with having run the first to the finish race this year, which you guys placed extremely well in getting second place there, and then the Peoria Heights meet at the end of the year. So I'm sure that gives you some confidence if and when we get there next weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're ready to go. We're ready for our sectional. Our goal is to become sectional champs and beat Liberty, because I believe that'll be the first cross country team to do that as well. We were second to them at the regional by only 10 points, so we were pretty close.
And Coach Casson touched on that a little bit in the last segment, but talk to us, 10 points, like you said, not a lot in cross country, and with it being a bigger race, that really is an advantage for your guys' team with the pack of runners that you have. So kind of talk strategy-wise going into this and, trying to look for that first sectional title.
Mainly the top 3 or 4 girls need to run in a pack and get ahead of Liberty's like second and third runners. Their first runner is going to be way up there. They might even win the sectional, but if the 3 of us or 4 of us can stay up tight and not get anybody in between us, our points will be less, so we can have a lower score to hopefully beat Liberty.
So how do you then, you're out there, you're in the heat of the moment, you're in the race, how do you ensure that no one kind of gets in that pack? Obviously you can't like throw elbows or like tackle anyone, because then you're going to get disqualified, but the strategy with that, trying to keep that pack together, are you guys kind of, drafting off of each other in terms of like wind and knowing when to pass and like all that stuff? Like what's going through your mind out there to ensure that strategy works?
More than anything, you just have to keep the mental focus to keep going, to keep the same pace you're going, because it's going to be hard, it's going to hurt, but you just have to know it's going to be over in 20 minutes or less and keep just pushing for that.
Now, have you guys been doing any special workouts this week in preparation for that, or has it kind of been, the same type of thing you've prepared for up to this point?
At this point, we're mainly tapering, so our legs will be ready to go on Saturday and next Saturday, hopefully, too. But we still have been doing some track workouts where we will run like 800s, or earlier this season we did like mile repeats, and we would run in our little pack for that and in practice like running fast together.
Now, one big thing for you, and Coach Casson mentioned this, is you dropped your time considerably since you've started, and really in between your sophomore and junior year, which I know you've put a lot of time, a lot of effort in order to do that. Talk to us about your training regime over the summer and, kind of what you went in with mentally as a goal so that you could get to the time you wanted to on these 3-mile races.
Over the summer, I made myself a calendar with a plan to run so far at a certain pace every day. So I would try my best to hit that goal. So like instead of just running an easy 3 miles, I might try to do it at like a 7:30-mile pace. So I would get used to like running at different times and know what it would feel like to run at that pace. And then also in the season, our new coach or assistant coach, Coach Glass, has been a huge help. He knows so much about running.
What are some things that he's passed on to you that you maybe didn't know about before?
He's helped a lot with pacing on how to like start a race and how to run like hills or turns, or if it was muddy, how to run through the mud and stuff like that.
So when you were practicing this summer, would you go out and like run the lake? Would you run the streets? Would you go out and run like country roads? Kind of what was your, I guess, practice course that, thank you there. I was going to say track, but course that you would do, or would you kind of mix it up so you didn't get like mentally bored with it?
Yeah, I would try to mix it up a little bit. Most of the time I would run on roads. On Saturdays, a lot of times with my dad, we would go do a longer run on one of the bike trails in Springfield because those help the miles go by a lot quicker and you just feel better out there.
Now, talking about your dad a little bit, Mr. Gudwien here, English teacher, journalism teacher, yearbook teacher. You were kind of an inspiration for him to get involved in running. Tell us that story a little bit.
Yeah, when I was in junior high, when I started track, my dad decided to start running too at the same time. And then since then, in the summers, we will go to different like public road races together. Like we always have done the State Fair Parade Run 2-mile. That was the first race we did together, and we keep doing that. And my mom's even beginning to start doing that one with us.
So you got to be honest here, okay? Obviously, we know you probably beat your mom and dad on a regular basis, but who's a better runner between your mom and your dad?
My dad is. My mom would admit that too. She says she only runs in the summer. That's her season for running. Where my dad, he runs year round.
So it's, even though it's getting cold now, your dad's still out there putting those miles on his shoes.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, weather will not be a factor this weekend. Looking about being at 70 degrees, does that affect you at all, or would you rather have it about the temperature is today, 53 out there?
I like it a little bit warmer. A lot of people like it a little bit cooler, but 65 would be about perfect. Last year, it was 30 degrees and raining at this sectional, so this will be a lot better than that last year.
And obviously, we're hoping for a big crowd up there, up at Elmwood. 10:30 is when you guys start. The boys will be right after. Still plenty of time to get back down here to Williamsville for that football game against Hillsborough at 1 o'clock. Last thing that I want to talk with you about, Grace, one thing that Coach Casson mentioned in the last segment is how impressed he's been with your leadership this season. And I know you're a member of the Captain's Council. How has that been for you to step up as a leader of this team, especially only being a junior? And what are some things that you've tried to instill with the rest of the team so that they can have success?
It's been fun. Mainly, I try to make sure the atmosphere is positive at all of our meets and practices because running is so much of a mental sport. It's so much easier to go in if you are positive and you feel good. And I try to lead by example by training hard and working hard in practices and listening to what Coach Muskoff and Glass and Casson say and working as hard as I can.
Well, Grace, it's been a pleasure to talk to you today. Like I said, we wish you and the rest of the team best of luck on Saturday up at Elmwood at the IHSA sectional. 10:30 is when the girls start. The boys will be immediately following. But Grace, before we let you go, is there anything else you'd like to add or tell the listeners out there?
Really just, I would like to thank my coaches and teammates for always being there and being supportive and positive, and I wish us all luck. And I thank my parents for helping me get to where I am in my running.
Perfect. Once again, Grace, best of luck. And when we return, we'll take a look ahead at the upcoming week for both the BBs and the Bullets.
Next time you're in the market for insurance or financial planning, stop by and see Country Financial Representative Ed Legner at 318 Crossing Drive in Sherman, or give him a call at 217-496-2341. And now, back to the show.
Run to the hill.
Welcome back to Williamsville Sports Weekly, presented by Ed Legner, Country Insurance Financial Representative out of Sherman, Illinois. You can visit Ed for all your insurance and financial needs. It's an awesome interview there with junior runner Grace Gudwien, to hear how she got into running, to hear how she, really cut her times down between her, her sophomore and junior year here to, really step up on the cross country team, and then the leadership too. And I know you have her in class, and you see her exhibit that in class on a daily basis.
Yeah, she's a junior in as you just said, in our human anatomy and physiology class, and she's pretty quiet, but she leads by example. Like, she's just always working at it. I don't know if she's missed 4 or 5 points the whole year so far, and she's a lab partner with Lizzie Blyer, and they're really good lab group. I mean, really, really good so far with the microscopes and things, and just mature. When you said that she was going to be getting interviewed, my first thought was she's very mature, and she'll probably give a really good interview. And as you saw, and just as you said, she's kind of wise beyond her years, and she's one of those kids that you could put in charge of the classroom if you wanted to, and probably for a few minutes, and you wouldn't have to worry about it. She's just a really good kid. She had a real good sense of humor too. It's something, sometimes kids are just so serious you don't have that, they won't let go, but has a really good sense of humor, and the kids like to be around her, and she's just had fun to have in class.
I always ask the kids, are they nervous beforehand? And you could tell she was a little bit nervous. I didn't know where the interview was going to go, but very articulate, and just able to answer the questions and to go beyond that initial question. It was really great, and obviously it says a lot about her parents, and it was cool to hear too how she motivated her dad to start running.
Mm-hmm.
And when she started doing track and more cross country, he got into it, and he's out there pounding the pavement throughout the whole year, which I'm always amazed at cross country athletes and people that run a lot in general, because I usually do it as I'm preparing for my physical fitness test for the Army a few weeks beforehand.
Right.
And it's just a dread for me, but they make it look so easy.
Well, and with Grace is one of those kids. We got a school of about 500 kids, a little less, but she's one of those 5 or 10 kids that if you wanted to say, this is a person we want to represent the values of our school, she's one of those kids. I think that's about the best compliment you can give her. We'd put her out there, and anybody wants to come interview her, or television, whatever, that's who we want representing our school. And you do a lot of work with branding. That's the kind of kid that we want to associate with our school. Yeah.
Well, you can see Grace and both, the rest of the girls cross-country team and the boys cross-country team run on Saturday up at Elmwood. 10:30 is the start for that. Boys will follow immediately after the girls race. And then, obviously, the big playoff football game, 1 o'clock here at Paul Jenkins Field, will be live on WHS Bullets TV. You'll be able to watch that one, as well as 2 other Sagamore games. North Mac and Monroe will be on as well. So if you want to be able to be at one, watch it on your phone, you have that ability. Just go to NFHSnetwork.com to be able to subscribe and get your subscription today. $60 for the entire year, and a little less than half that comes back to the conference, so we can reinvest in that infrastructure. And as we talked about volleyball tonight, hopefully volleyball captures their 6th straight regional title, and then we'll advance to the Beardstown sectional next week. Other than that, we really don't know what's going on, because, if football loses, they're done. That's not our plan at this point. Same thing with cross country. They'd be running next Saturday. But junior high, a whole huge slate of things going on. Boys basketball kicks off this weekend over the Chatham Shootout, and then girls basketball's in full swing as well. So, and obviously we have World Series baseball to catch,
right,
which you and I aren't going to be too heartbroken if we miss it.
Yeah, what's funny is I enjoy watching it because it's local flavor. But yeah, if it was the Cardinals, I'd watch every pitch.
Yep.
But it'll be fun to watch Saturday night, being the first game there in over 100 years, and since 45.
45. But I was getting a little irritated when I was listening to the score today. Like, this is something Chicago hasn't seen in 71 years.
Yeah, not Chicago.
Well, let's think about this. We do have a team on the south side that won one in 05. So we've seen a World Series here.
Yeah.
Let's say the north side hasn't seen this.
I agree.
So
I agree.
And I know you didn't do that intentionally, but obviously the score is the Cubs.
Yep.
The Cubs broadcast juggernaut now. So, but
when they won without going on and on here, but when they won the pennant, Fox Sports 1, a national network, they had post game for 3 hours after that, and when Cleveland won it, there was probably about a half-hour show. So, yeah. I think they're getting a lot of publicity, and I wish them the best. and I guess they've so-called earned it by not winning for so long.
There you go. Yeah.
So you can look at it 2 ways.
Yeah, it's printing money. So, but until next week, remember, it's always better to be a bullet.